chest. That's not life being hard. That's distraction weighing you down. Opinions you didn't ask for, timelines you didn't choose, narratives you don't believe. The world wants a reaction. Give it your silence. Now be brutally honest for a moment. How much of your suffering is truly caused by the world, and how much is created by your own thoughts, your own beliefs, your own refusal to let go? How much pain are you carrying simply because you won't accept what you can't control? It's a harsh truth most people never admit. You are not overwhelmed because life is hard. You are overwhelmed because you're trying to control everything except yourself. That's the burn, isn't it? The constant fight to fix everything outside while ignoring the war within. The Stoics warned us. Control is an illusion when directed outward. Real strength, real peace, begins when you stop chasing the external storm and master your internal weather. Man is disturbed not by things, Epictetus said, but by the views he takes of them. So ask yourself, what if the real problem isn't your job, your partner, or the world? What if the problem is the way you think about them? And what if the solution has been inside you all along, buried beneath layers of fear, noise, and ego? If you're ready to stop flinching at the truth and start living by it, consider subscribing as a small vow to yourself. A vow to seek wisdom over noise, discipline over distraction, and inner power over outward control. As Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That sentence isn't just philosophical, it's a roadmap out of emotional chaos. The traffic isn't what ruins your day. It's the rage that lingers. The comment isn't what poisons your peace. It's the spiral you start afterward. Let's stop pretending that every negative feeling is some deep truth. Sometimes it's just habit. You've taught yourself to freak out, to catastrophize, to let your emotions drive the car. And every time you do, you reinforce that loop. But the opposite is also true. Every time you pause, take a breath, and choose not to escalate, you rewire your nervous system. You teach your mind that not everything needs a reaction. You build emotional muscle, one calm decision at a time. And no, it's not easy, especially when it feels personal. When someone disrespects you, when plans fall apart, when life throws you a curveball you didn't see coming, it feels like you have to react. Like staying calm means you don't care. But it's actually the opposite. Staying calm isn't weakness, it's self-mastery. It's choosing to protect your peace, not because the world deserves your silence, but because you deserve your sanity, because you've finally realized that the price of reacting to everything is far higher than the satisfaction of being right in the moment. The Stoics weren't teaching us to be emotionless. They were showing us how to be emotionally disciplined, to feel the emotion, but not let it control the outcome, to stand still in the storm without becoming part of it. Think about the last time you overreacted. Maybe it was something small, someone forgot to text you back, and you spun a whole story in your head. Maybe it was something bigger, an argument where you said things you didn't mean. Now ask yourself, did that reaction fix the problem or just make it louder? Did it bring you clarity or did it drag you further into confusion? Most of the time, what we think is a justified emotional outburst is just us handing over our peace to something that didn't deserve it in the first place. What if instead you paused? Not suppressed, not denied, but paused. What if you said, "Okay, this feels bad, but I'm not going to let it shape the rest of my day"? That's not passive, that's powerful. That's the moment you stop being a victim of life and start becoming a student of it. Every challenge becomes a test. Every rude person becomes a mirror. Every delay becomes an invitation to practice patience. Not because you're trying to be holy or perfect, but because you finally realize peace is more useful than outrage. Even Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." That's not just clever, it's a challenge. Every time you feel the urge to snap, ask, what am I really reacting to? Is it the situation or the meaning I gave it? Is it this moment or my unhealed memory that it just triggered? This is where self-awareness becomes your superpower. The more you understand your inner triggers, the less life can yank you around. That's what Stoicism really is. It's not cold logic. It's not pretending things don't bother you. It's building a kind of quiet strength where you get to decide what deserves your energy. And more often than not, it's a lot less than you think. Because once you stop reacting to every little thing, you start seeing the big picture again. You breathe deeper. You think clearer. You stop leaking energy into battles that never needed to be fought in the first place. And here's the shift no one talks about. When you stop reacting, the world starts changing. Not because the world actually changes, but because your perception does. You stop attracting chaos because you're no longer dancing with it. You stop needing control because you've found it in yourself. You stop wasting time trying to fix what doesn't belong to you and start focusing on what actually does. Your mindset, your behavior, your next step. So the next time something goes wrong, and it will, ask yourself this: am I feeding the fire or walking away from it? Am I choosing clarity or chaos? And even if it's messy, even if you slip up, just noticing is a win. That's how it begins. You catch yourself, you pause, you choose differently, not perfectly, just better. And over time, that space between stimulus and response becomes your greatest strength. Not because life stopped testing you, but because you stopped letting it own you. Your reaction isn't just a choice. It's a reflection of who you're becoming. And every time you choose peace, you're reminding yourself and the world that you're no longer controlled by chaos. You're guided by wisdom. That's the difference between surviving and living, between breaking down and breaking through, between being a puppet of emotion and becoming the author of your own peace. You decide which one you want to be. 2. You are not your past. You've done things you regret, said the wrong words, stayed when you should have walked away, gave too much, too fast, or didn't give at all when it mattered most. Maybe you broke something precious, a relationship, a dream, a version of yourself you once believed in. And now it's easy to think that those mistakes are who you are, that the past has carved your identity in stone, that no matter how much time passes or how much you try to grow, you'll always be that same broken person. But let's pause for a second. What if that's not true? What if that's just the story you keep telling yourself because you're afraid to write a new one? The Stoics had a different view. They didn't worship perfection. They respected action, forward motion, choice. You're not defined by where you've been, but by where you're willing to go now. What happened already happened. You can't change that. But what you do next, that's still unwritten. Seneca once said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." The chapter might have ended in pain, but the story isn't over unless you stop turning pages. That means your next move has more power than your last mistake, if you let it. You might feel weighed down by shame. Regret wraps around your mind like chains. You replay old decisions over and over, trying to figure out how you could have done it better. But you're not that version of yourself anymore. You've lived more since then, learned more, hurt more, grown more, and the version of you that's standing here today, reading this, reflecting, even considering change, is already proof that you're not who you used to be. The fact that you care, that you want to do better, means you've already outgrown the skin you once wore. Still, the past has a way of clinging to you, doesn't it? People bring it up. Your own thoughts throw it in your face when you're trying to sleep. One memory can ignite a whole storm of doubt. even years later. But what you have to remember is this: the memory is not the moment. The memory is just an echo. You're not living that mistake again unless you choose to by reliving it every day in your mind. When you walk forward, even with fear, even with uncertainty, you start proving to yourself that you're not trapped. You're free to change, and the door was never locked to begin with. The past can inform you, but it doesn't get to define you. You can take the lesson without carrying the label. You can respect the pain without becoming it. You can forgive yourself without excusing what happened, and in doing so, make room for something better to take root. But here's the part that most people don't tell you. Starting over doesn't feel good at first. It feels awkward, exposed. You'll have to leave behind the comfort of blame. You'll have to stop using your past as a shield to protect you from trying again. Because once you admit that you're capable of more, the pressure comes, the responsibility, the decisions, but also freedom. When you stop letting your history dictate your destiny, you become something rare. You become the kind of person who doesn't just survive the past, but uses it to fuel their future. And you don't need anyone else to validate that. People may still see the old version of you. They might not believe you've changed. That's fine. You're not doing this for them. You're doing it so you can sleep at night without the weight of who you used to be pressing down on your chest. You're doing it so you can look in the mirror and finally see someone who's not stuck, but becoming. Someone who chooses growth, not guilt. Forgiveness, not punishment. And progress, even when it's slow. The truth is, nobody gets through life without regrets. Nobody has a clean record. But Stoicism reminds us that the only thing that matters is what you do with what remains. You can let your past be a prison, or you can let it be a teacher. You can carry your scars like evidence of failure, or like proof that you've endured, that you've been through fire and walked out stronger, not perfect, not unmarked, but wiser. And that wisdom isn't in pretending nothing happened. It's in saying, yes, that was me, but I've changed, and I'm still changing. Sometimes the hardest person to convince is yourself. You've worn the mask of regret for so long, it feels like skin. But that's not who you are. That's just a chapter you've read too many times. And it's okay to close it now, not because it didn't matter, but because you've outgrown it. Because there's more for you to write, and you can't write it while stuck in yesterday. So if you're standing there, staring at the past like it's a wall, turn around. There's a whole path behind you, and it leads forward. The next decision you make is always the most powerful one, not because it erases what happened, but because it reclaims your authority to decide what happens next. You don't need to wait for some sign. You don't need to be fully healed to begin. You just need to decide that the next line in your story won't be written by your shame, it'll be written by your courage. You are not your past. You are the author who survived it, and right now you're holding the pen. 3. Thoughts aren't facts. Your brain never stops talking. It narrates everything. From the second you open your eyes to the moment you drift off at night, it's weaving stories about what might happen, what should have happened, and what's probably going to go wrong. And the scary part is, it's convincing. It doesn't whisper. It declares, they're going to leave you. You're going to mess this up again. Everyone's going to see you fail. That voice sounds so real, so certain, that you don't even question it. But here's the thing. Just because a thought appears in your mind doesn't mean it's true. Thoughts are not facts. They're just internal noise shaped by fears, memories, patterns, and assumptions. We treat our thoughts like they're law. We don't stop to examine them. We just react. Your brain throws out, "You're not good enough," and you go quiet. It offers, "You'll never get over this," and you stop trying. One sentence from your own mind, and suddenly your whole body listens like it's a command. But most of the time, your thoughts aren't guiding you. They're limiting you. They're looping back to old wounds, outdated stories, and imagined disasters. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And that line could be a mirror for most of our days. The pain isn't always in the moment. It's in the version of the moment we create in our heads. There's a difference between thinking and being aware of thinking. One keeps you stuck, the other sets you free. Because when you're aware, you can step back. You can notice, my mind is telling me I'm going to fail, instead of falling into, I'm definitely going to fail. That gap, that moment of awareness, is everything. It's where choice lives. It's where you stop letting thoughts dictate your reality and start choosing what kind of reality you want to live in. The mind is wired for survival, not clarity. It's been trained over generations to look for danger, to anticipate problems, to brace for pain before it arrives. That was useful when the threats were wild animals or enemy tribes. But now, the threats are awkward conversations, uncertain outcomes, or social judgment. And your mind still treats them like life or death emergencies. It floods you with fear, doubt, and predictions, not because they're true, but because it's trying to keep you safe. But safety and growth rarely live in the same space. What protects you from discomfort can also keep you from living. You don't have to believe every thought that walks into your mind. You can treat them like guests. Some are helpful, some are lies. Some are just echoes of old fear dressed up like new logic. But none of them are automatic truths. You get to question them, challenge them, replace them, and no, this isn't about fake positivity or pretending bad things don't happen. It's about refusing to let imaginary pain steal the joy of reality. It's about saying, yes, this is hard, but no, I don't need to make it harder with stories that aren't even real. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." That includes what happens inside your own head. You're not your anxious thoughts. You're not your worst-case scenarios. You're the awareness that sees them and chooses not to be ruled by them. That's power, not the absence of fear, but the refusal to surrender to it. If you pay close attention, you'll notice patterns. Maybe your thoughts always spiral when you're alone, or when you feel behind, or when someone doesn't text back fast enough. That's not your intuition. That's your insecurity rehearsing the past. And if you don't stop to question it, you'll live the same loop over and over. Different situations, same story. Until one day, you decide to write a different one. And that's where the real shift happens. When instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you ask, "What if I figure it out?" When instead of, "They're going to leave me," you say, "I'll still be whole either way." When instead of, "I'm not enough," you remind yourself, "I'm becoming." Those aren't lies. They're just new narratives. Ones built not on fear, but on growth. Not on assumption, but awareness. Of course, your mind will resist. It likes the familiar, even if it's painful. It will try to pull you back into old habits of overthinking, predicting, assuming. That's okay. Don't fight it. Just notice it. Breathe. Detach. Remind yourself that thoughts are just mental weather, clouds passing through. You don't need to chase them. You don't need to hold on. You just need to know the sky is still there, even when it's cloudy. There's peace in that knowing, in realizing that you can experience a thought without becoming it, that you can sit with uncertainty without feeding it with fiction, and that you can respond to fear with presence, not panic. That's the kind of mental strength Stoicism teaches, not to feel nothing, but to feel everything without crumbling under it. So the next time your mind starts spinning its stories, pause. Don't fight. Don't feed it. Just ask, is this helpful? That one question can reroute an entire day, and if the answer is no, change the channel. Choose a thought that's rooted in reality, not projection. In possibility, not panic. In strength, not scarcity. Because you are not your thoughts, you are the thinker. And that difference, that's where freedom lives. 4. Protect your energy like it's gold. Your peace is not some casual thing you give away. It's not a favor, and it's definitely not free. Every time you allow negativity into your space, whether it's through people, habits, or what you consume, you're spending something valuable. And most people don't even realize it. They feel drained, unfocused, irritable, not because something big happened, but because they've let their mental space get cluttered. Imagine your mind as a garden. Whatever you let in will grow. If you water stress, it multiplies. If you ignore boundaries, weeds show up fast. But if you're intentional, if you plant calm, curiosity, discipline, you begin to see something else grow. Something peaceful, something worth protecting. Negativity doesn't always come charging through the door. Sometimes it walks in quietly, disguised as harmless conversation or mindless habits. You scroll for hours thinking it's entertainment, but your mind is absorbing every headline, every filtered image, every argument in the comments. Before you know it, you're anxious and don't know why. That's the cost. You catch up with someone who constantly complains, gossips, dumps their stress on you. You tell yourself it's fine, but afterward you feel heavier. That's the cost. These aren't small things, they're leaks. And if enough energy leaks out of you every day, eventually you'll feel empty and not know where it went. There's no shame in protecting yourself from what drains you. It's not selfish to guard your time, your space, your attention. In fact, it's a sign of self-respect. You're telling yourself, I'm not a dumping ground for everyone's chaos. I'm not available for everything that wants to distract or deplete me. That's strength, not in the loud, aggressive way, but in the quiet, steady way that builds resilience over time. You get to choose who has access to you. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone earns the right to speak into your mind. Think of how much energy you spend explaining yourself to people who've already decided not to understand you. Think of how much mental space you lose replaying arguments that happened days ago. Think of the hours you've given to empty scrolling, chasing dopamine through headlines and highlight reels. What if that same energy went into building something, reading, reflecting, creating, healing? The Stoics understood that our time and attention are some of the most precious things we own, and yet we give them away more easily than money. Epictetus once said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. That's not about blame, it's about power. If someone keeps getting under your skin, it means you've handed them the key. If a habit keeps pulling you back into stress, it means you haven't locked that door yet. But you can. You can reclaim what's been leaking out. You can begin again by drawing a clear line and saying, no more. This is my space, and I get to decide what grows here. Protecting your energy doesn't mean cutting everyone off or living in silence. It means choosing what you allow in. It means being aware of what feeds you and what feeds on you. There's a big difference. Some people walk into your life and bring clarity, calm and direction. Others bring noise, confusion and doubt. Pay attention to the feeling you have after spending time with someone. That's the real conversation. That's where the truth lives. And it's okay to outgrow what once felt familiar. Growth demands space. And sometimes the only way to get that space is to clear out what no longer fits. We often think we can handle it all, that we're strong enough to stay centered even in chaos. And maybe sometimes we are, but strength isn't just about enduring, it's about choosing wisely. choosing not to be available for every conversation, not to attend every argument, not to engage every distraction. You don't owe the world your constant availability. You owe yourself your clarity. And you can't have clarity when your mind is loud with things that don't matter. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." To truly protect your energy, you have to look inward more often. You have to know what peace feels like so you can recognize when it's gone. You have to understand what you value so you can recognize when something's pulling you away from it. That's not something the world will teach you. That's something you have to teach yourself, moment by moment, decision by decision. Start small. Unfollow one account that always makes you compare. Mute one person whose energy never feels good. Say no to one invite that drains you. Set one boundary that reminds you you're worth protecting. You don't have to change everything overnight. But you do have to start treating your mind like sacred ground, because it is. Every thought you allow, every message you absorb, every person you interact with plants something, and over time, that becomes your environment, and your environment becomes your mindset. Protecting your energy isn't about being closed off. It's about being discerning. It's about understanding that your focus, your peace, your time, these are not things to gamble with. They're the foundation of how you live. If they're strong, you'll be strong. If they're constantly under attack, you'll always feel like you're barely holding on. So start guarding your inner world the way you'd guard something precious, because that's exactly what it is. When you protect your energy, you start showing up differently. You think clearer, you feel lighter, you respond instead of react. You begin to notice beauty again because your mind isn't clouded. You begin to feel joy in simple moments because you're not constantly exhausted from fighting invisible battles. That's the kind of life that grows when you stop letting weeds take root, and it starts the moment you decide that your peace is non-negotiable. 5. Don't wish for easy, train for hard. You know the feeling. You wish things would just be easier. Maybe it's your job, your relationships, or your endless to-do list that never seems to shrink. Every time something gets hard, there's a little voice inside you that says, "Why does it have to be this way? Why can't things just be simpler?" But here's the thing. Life isn't supposed to be easy, and no matter how much you wish for it, it won't be. So instead of asking for an easier life, how about we start asking for a stronger one? The Stoics understood something fundamental about human nature. They didn't expect the world to hand them comfort or convenience. Instead, they embraced discomfort. They welcomed the challenges, the hardships, and the tough lessons, because they knew that's where growth lives. Marcus Aurelius would wake up every morning, reminding himself that life would bring him difficulties, and rather than retreating from them, he leaned into them. The Stoics didn't wait for easy. They made themselves strong in the face of what was hard. They intentionally sought discomfort, practiced it daily, and turned it into a tool for resilience. Think about it. When was the last time you truly grew without facing something hard? Maybe it was a challenging project at work, a tough conversation with someone you love, or even something as simple as waking up an hour earlier than usual. At the moment, those things feel like obstacles. They make us want to pull back, to opt for the easier, more comfortable choice. But when you push through, when you choose to show up anyway, you build something inside you that wouldn't exist if you avoided the challenge. You build grit, the strength to keep going when it feels easier to quit. The problem is, we've been taught to avoid discomfort. We've been sold the idea that life should be easy, that we should have everything we want right now without much effort. We scroll through social media, comparing our messy realities to others' highlight reels, thinking we're the only ones struggling. But this craving for comfort, it's a trap. It makes us soft. Comfort is the liar that whispers, "You've had enough. Take a break. You deserve it." But what we fail to realize is that comfort doesn't bring us joy or fulfillment. It brings stagnation. It's the place where we start to settle, to accept the status quo, to stop growing. And before we know it, we've forgotten how to fight for what we really want. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is where true strength lies, not in avoiding problems, but in how we respond to them. The world will keep throwing curveballs. People will disappoint you. You'll face setbacks. But what if you could train yourself to handle those things with resilience? What if instead of wishing for fewer problems, you started preparing yourself to face them head-on with calm, clarity, and strength? What if you leaned into the discomfort instead of shying away from it? This doesn't mean you should go looking for hardship just to prove something. It doesn't mean you should make life harder than it needs to be. But it does mean you need to stop fearing discomfort. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort for a reason. They intentionally sought out hard experiences to strengthen their minds and their resolve. Cold showers, fasting, sleeping on the floor, these weren't acts of self-punishment. They were exercises in resilience. They were a way of reminding themselves that comfort is fleeting, but strength is built through adversity. And it's the same for you. Every time you push yourself to do something difficult, whether it's sticking to a goal, having an uncomfortable conversation, or challenging yourself physically, you're strengthening your character. You're teaching yourself that you can handle whatever life throws your way. You're telling yourself, "I'm capable. I'm stronger than my excuses. I won't let fear or discomfort stop me." And that's power. Don't let the world convince you that easy is the goal. Easy doesn't teach you anything. It doesn't prepare you for what's coming. But when you face a challenge and when you push through it, you get better. You grow. You become the kind of person who doesn't back down when things get tough. You become someone who knows, deep down, that no matter what happens, you've got what it takes to handle it. This is where true peace lies, not in the absence of problems, but in your ability to remain grounded through them. Peace is not about avoiding discomfort. It's about accepting it as part of the journey, trusting that you can face it and knowing that the discomfort will eventually pass. And when it does, you'll be standing taller, stronger, and more resilient than ever. The Stoics didn't seek comfort because they knew it wouldn't last. They didn't wish for things to be easier because they understood that real growth only comes through struggle. Every time you choose to show up, to take on the hard thing, you're choosing resilience. You're choosing to get stronger, to grow, and to live life on your own terms, not according to the whims of convenience or comfort. So the next time life gets tough, and it will, remember, don't wish for it to be easier. Don't ask for fewer problems. Ask for more resilience. Ask for the strength to handle what's in front of you with grace and power. Life doesn't need to be easy for you to be strong. In fact, it's better that way. It's through the challenges that we become the people we were always meant to be. So embrace the hard moments, lean into them, and remember, you're not just surviving them, you're training for them. This is where the true strength lies, not in waiting for life to hand you comfort, but in building the strength to handle whatever comes your way. In the end, comfort will always fade, but resilience? That's something you can build every single day. So stop wishing for easy, start training for hard, and when life gets tough, you'll be ready, not because it's easy, but because you're strong enough to face it. 6. The present moment is all you own. You're not living in the future. You're not fixing the past. The only moment you truly own is now. But how often do you actually live here? How many of us drift through the day, mentally checking out, thinking we'll be happy when we finally get that promotion, lose that weight, or find the one. We scroll through social media, distracted by everyone else's lives, living in a world of possibilities, yet missing the life that's happening right in front of us. We get so caught up in what could be or what could have been that we forget to appreciate what actually is. And in doing so, we squander the only real thing we have, this moment, this day, right here, right now. You see, most of us treat life like a waiting room. We tell ourselves that we'll start living when things fall into place, when the conditions are perfect, when we feel ready. But that day never comes. We think we're waiting for something bigger, but the truth is, we're waiting for a life that's already here. This isn't the trailer. This isn't the preview. This is the main event. Every second that passes is a piece of your story. Every breath is another page turning, and yet we scroll past it as if it's not happening. We treat today like it's just another stepping stone to something better. But today is everything. It's your life. It's the only guarantee you have. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than most. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That's not a morbid statement. It's a wake-up call. Because the truth is, none of us are promised tomorrow. We live as if we have all the time in the world, but in reality, we don't even know if we'll see the sunset. Every day is a gift, and when you realize that, when you internalize that truth, everything changes. Every decision you make becomes a choice to honor the present, to live fully in the moment, instead of postponing your happiness or fulfillment for some distant future. So, why do we waste time? Why do we push off our lives like they're not worth living yet? It's easier to think we'll be happy when everything aligns just perfectly. But here's the catch. By waiting for the right time, you're letting life slip by unnoticed. Life doesn't come in perfect packages. It comes in messy, unpredictable, and beautiful moments. And if you keep waiting for the perfect moment to start living, you might find that you've waited your whole life away. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't plan for the future. It's good to have goals, to strive for something better. But the present is where the work happens. It's where the growth is. It's where you make your choices, where you shape your character, where you experience joy, pain, love, and everything in between. The past is gone, and the future is just a concept. The only real thing is right now. And yet, we often find ourselves trapped in the what-ifs of the future or the should-haves of the past. We get stuck in regrets over things we can't change or worry about things that haven't even happened yet. We forget that we're the ones creating the narrative of our lives with the way we choose to think. Your mind is your most powerful tool, and if you're not careful, it can drag you into endless cycles of anxiety and regret. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But who are you, really? Are you the person who's so lost in what's next that you miss the beauty of what's right in front of you? Or are you someone who is present, fully awake to each moment, each experience, with the understanding that this is all you really have? When you live in the now, you stop being a passive observer of life. You stop waiting for things to change before you start living. You realize that you can create meaning, beauty, and fulfillment in every moment, no matter how ordinary it seems. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking the best is always ahead of us. But the best moment is the one you're in right now. That's the secret. The future can't guarantee anything, and the past can't change anything. But today, you have the power to choose. Today, you can decide how you show up. You can choose to be fully present, to appreciate the small moments, to find beauty in the mess. You can choose to make this moment count instead of waiting for something better to come along. What would happen if you started treating today like it was all you had? What if you started showing up for the life you're living right now, instead of waiting for life to show up for you? What if you stopped postponing your happiness, your peace, your fulfillment, and just embraced what's right in front of you? The Stoics believed that by focusing on the present moment, you could align your actions, thoughts, and feelings with nature's flow. When you stop fighting reality, you free yourself to live it fully. You stop wishing things were different and start seeing how they could be beautiful just as they are. This doesn't mean you stop striving. It doesn't mean you stop dreaming. But it does mean you stop letting your future take the wheel of your life. The present moment is yours to shape, right here, right now. So, what if today isn't a placeholder? What if it's the life you've been waiting for? What if all you need to do is decide to live it? Because once you realize that today is all you really have, everything changes. The way you spend your time, the people you choose to surround yourself with, the way you see the world, suddenly it all feels more meaningful. Every second becomes a choice. Every interaction, a chance to connect. Every action, an opportunity to build the life you've always wanted. But only if you're present enough to notice it. You don't need to wait for tomorrow. You don't need to wait for a future that may never come. You have everything you need to create a fulfilling, meaningful life right now. Stop letting today slip through your fingers, waiting for something better. The best time to start living is now. So treat today like the treasure it is, because this moment, this exact moment, is the only one you truly own. 7. Calm is a superpower. We've all been there. Someone cuts you off in traffic, a colleague says something that rubs you the wrong way, or life throws a curveball your way. And what happens? The floodgates of emotion open. You feel that heat rise in your chest. You want to scream, lash out, maybe even throw something. But here's the thing. Every time you give in to that immediate reaction, you're giving away your power. You're letting the outside world dictate how you feel, how you act, and how you respond. So let's stop acting like calm is boring, calm is control, calm is power. It's not about suppressing emotion or pretending nothing bothers you. It's about deciding what gets to affect you and what doesn't. It's about knowing that no matter how loud the world gets, you don't have to shout to be heard. Think about a time when someone pushed your buttons and you didn't flinch. Maybe you stayed silent when you normally would have fired back, or you chose not to engage when every fiber of your being wanted to react. That moment of calm wasn't weakness, it was strength. Not because you didn't feel anger or frustration, but because you didn't let it control you. You didn't let someone else's chaos become your chaos. Instead of being sucked into their storm, you remained the eye of the hurricane. That is where your power lies, and that power, when harnessed, is unstoppable. Being calm doesn't mean you're indifferent. It doesn't mean you're passive. It means you've developed the ability to maintain your peace, regardless of the noise around you. Think about how easy it is to get caught up in someone else's drama, to react out of frustration or defensiveness. It's easy to lose control when things aren't going your way. But it takes a different level of strength to stay grounded, to respond thoughtfully, and to not let the world push you around emotionally. That's not just emotional intelligence, that's emotional dominance. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't just teach us to accept the world as it is, they taught us to control what we could, our reactions. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminded himself that while he couldn't control the actions of others, he could always control his response. And in that space, that moment of choice, he found his power. It's easy to react. It's easy to let someone's words or actions trigger a response. But choosing how you respond, choosing to stay calm when everything in you wants to erupt, that's where strength lies. Carl Jung said, "The greatest achievement of the human spirit is to stand undisturbed in the midst of chaos." Think about that. True strength isn't about dominating others or controlling every situation. It's about controlling yourself, especially in the face of adversity. It's about standing firm when the world is trying to knock you down. It's knowing that no matter how loud, chaotic, or stressful things get, you can remain composed. You can stay calm. And in that calmness, you find clarity. You find power. Now let's be clear. This doesn't mean you suppress your emotions. It's not about pretending you don't feel anger, frustration, or disappointment. It's about acknowledging those feelings, sitting with them, and then choosing to respond in a way that aligns with your values, not your impulses. The more you practice this, the easier it gets to remain calm in situations that once would have sent you over the edge. And in doing so, you're not just improving your emotional well-being, you're improving the quality of your life. The true test of strength isn't how loud you can shout or how quick you can react. The true test is how well you can control yourself when everything around you is spinning out of control. It's about being the one in the room who remains calm when everyone else is losing their mind. It's about knowing that your peace isn't up for negotiation. And when you protect that peace, when you make the conscious decision to stay centered, nothing outside of you can disturb your inner world. That is emotional resilience at its finest. Imagine this. The next time someone tries to provoke you, whether it's a comment, an argument, or a stressful situation, what if you didn't let it affect you? What if you could respond with clarity, with calm, without feeling like you had to prove anything? The world is full of noise, distractions, and emotional triggers, but none of it has to steal your peace unless you let it. And every time you choose calm, you reinforce your strength. You show yourself that you're not a prisoner to your emotions or the chaos around you. You are the one who chooses how you respond, and in that, you find true freedom. It's not about being perfect at it. You'll have moments when you slip, when the stress gets the better of you, when the world feels like too much. But the more you practice calm, the more natural it becomes. You begin to see it not as a reaction, but as a skill. And just like any other skill, the more you hone it, the stronger you get. The more you stay in control of your own emotions, the less the world controls you. When you can stay calm in the storm, you stop reacting out of fear, anger, or insecurity. Instead, you choose to respond from a place of strength. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself or get pulled into arguments. You let the noise be just that, noise, and you in turn become the embodiment of calm. That's where true power lies, not in how much you can control the world around you, but in how much you can control yourself within it. So next time the storm comes, when you're tested, remember this: calm isn't passive. Calm is power. It's control, it's strength, and it's yours if you choose it. 8. Self-respect starts with self-talk. You spend more time with yourself than anyone else. From the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, you're there. So the question is, how do you speak to yourself? What kind of conversations are you having in your head? Because the truth is, how you talk to yourself shapes your reality more than anything else. If you constantly berate yourself, if your inner voice tells you you're not enough, if you treat yourself like you're unworthy or incapable, don't be surprised when your actions reflect that belief. You're listening to the voice inside your head, and if that voice is negative, your entire approach to life becomes negative. It's like living with a constant critic who never lets you rest. If you treat yourself as if you're worthless, you'll begin to act as if you are. If you let that inner critic tear you down every day, don't be shocked when the world does the same. We all have that voice inside our heads, the one that tells us we're not good enough, that we'll never be successful, that everyone else is better, smarter, more capable. But here's the thing, you don't have to accept it. You don't have to listen to it. You get to decide what that voice says. The power to reshape that narrative is in your hands. Epictetus said, "If you want to be good, first believe that you are bad." Now, at first, this might sound harsh. Why would you have to believe that you're bad in order to be good? But what Epictetus is really saying is that self-awareness and honesty with yourself are the starting points. To improve, to grow, to reach your potential, you have to confront the truth of where you are. But that truth is not about beating yourself up. It's about being honest. It's about acknowledging your flaws and mistakes, not so you can stay stuck in guilt, but so you can move forward with strength. So catch that inner critic. When you notice the negative thoughts creeping in, call them out. Ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this true? Or am I just replaying old, outdated tapes? Because here's the thing, the story you tell yourself determines what you believe, and what you believe shapes your actions. It's like this. If you keep telling yourself that you're a failure, eventually you'll act like one. If you tell yourself you're worthless, you'll treat yourself that way. But if you flip the script, if you start telling yourself that you're worthy, capable, and enough, your actions will align with that belief. It's not magic. It's not about pretending everything's perfect. It's about reshaping the internal narrative so that it empowers you instead of holding you back. Your voice, the one inside your head, is more important than you realize. It's the one you listen to the most, and it sets your value. If that voice constantly criticizes you, judges you, and tells you that you're not enough, how can you expect to live with confidence? How can you expect to push past obstacles when your own inner voice is holding you back? You need to be your own biggest supporter, not your harshest critic. This isn't about being arrogant or delusional. It's about being kind to yourself, acknowledging your strengths, and accepting your imperfections. It's about not letting the mistakes of your past define who you are today. One of the most powerful things you can do is catch that inner dialogue when it turns negative. When you notice it, stop, pause, then reframe it. Don't just accept what your mind is telling you. Challenge it. Ask yourself, is this really who I am? Or is this just a story I've been telling myself for years? You don't have to believe everything your mind tells you, especially when it's trying to tear you down. Rewriting your self-talk doesn't happen overnight, but it starts with one small step, just becoming aware of how you're speaking to yourself. And once you catch it, you can change it. Self-respect begins here. It starts with how you talk to yourself. It starts with recognizing your worth, not because someone else tells you, but because you know it. Because you've decided that you deserve the same kindness, the same encouragement, the same support that you'd offer to someone you love. You would never let a friend talk to themselves the way you talk to yourself. You would never stand by while someone else tore down their self-worth. So why do you let yourself get away with it? Why do you allow that negativity to fester? But how can you become who you're meant to be if you're constantly holding yourself back with negative self-talk? You are already enough, just as you are. And if you can shift the way you think about yourself, you'll unlock your potential in ways you never imagined. The negative self-talk isn't just a nuisance, it's a barrier to becoming the person you're meant to be. But the good news is that you have the power to break it down, piece by piece. And every time you choose to be kinder to yourself, you're taking a step toward that version of yourself. This process takes time. It won't happen all at once. But the first step is simple. Start paying attention. Start noticing when your mind gets critical. When you catch yourself thinking that you're not good enough, stop and challenge that thought. Replace it with something constructive. If you think, "I'll never succeed," replace it with, "I'm capable of learning and improving." If you think, "I'm not worthy of success," replace it with, "I am deserving of everything I'm working for." Slowly but surely, you will build a new self-narrative. One that fuels you, rather than drains you. Your self-talk can either be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. It can either build you up or tear you down. But the power to choose is in your hands. By simply becoming aware of how you speak to yourself, you begin the process of changing it. And when you change the way you talk to yourself, you begin to change how you show up in the world. You begin to believe in your own worth, and with that belief, you'll act in ways that align with that truth. So, start today. Change the script. Speak to yourself like you would speak to someone you love, because you deserve that love, that respect, and that kindness. Start now and watch how it transforms your life. 9. Keep your moves quiet until they're solid. There's a strange thing that happens when you set a new goal or decide to make a change in your life. You feel this rush to share it with the world. You want to tell everyone what you're working on, what you're going to accomplish, and what your next big move is. It's like announcing it gives you some kind of validation, or maybe just the excitement of putting your intentions out there. But here's the thing: real growth, the kind that lasts, happens in silence. It happens in the moments when no one's watching, when it's just you and your goal, and the only thing that matters is the work. We live in a world where everyone's posting their plans, their dreams, their aspirations, all over social media. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with that, we've lost sight of the value of keeping things quiet until they're solid. You don't need to share every single idea or goal with the world. You don't need to seek validation or applause before you've even begun. There's something powerful about working behind the scenes, staying focused and building in private. When you do that, you keep your energy where it belongs, in the work itself. The Stoics understood this principle deeply. They didn't announce their intentions, and they didn't need to boast about their progress. They simply did the work. They didn't wait for external recognition. They didn't need approval or likes. They built their lives, their characters, their wisdom, quietly, away from the noise. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." It wasn't about telling the world what you were going to do. It was about quietly becoming the person you wanted to be. It was about taking the necessary steps without the need for validation from others. The results spoke for themselves. Think about how much energy we waste announcing plans we haven't even started. We get caught up in the excitement of sharing our ideas, but often that excitement fades long before the work is done. And when we don't get the immediate attention we were hoping for, it can be discouraging. But when you keep your moves quiet, you remove the pressure. There's no rush, there's no expectation, it's just you, focused on building something real, something lasting. When you work in silence, you create space for your true intentions to develop. The work becomes the focus, not the outcome or the approval. By keeping your moves quiet, you're also protecting your energy. Too often we get distracted by the noise around us, the opinions of others, the pressure to perform, the fear of judgment. If you share your plans too early, you open yourself up to outside influences that might sway your direction or make you doubt your progress. When you build in private, you don't have to deal with those distractions. You're free to learn, to grow, and to stumble without the weight of public scrutiny. And let's be real. We all know the feeling of posting something online and then waiting for the likes, comments, or attention. It feels good in the moment, right? But what happens when that attention fades? What happens when the validation stops coming? The work you've been putting in may start to feel less valuable without that external recognition. But when you keep your moves quiet, you're building something that's based on your own standards, not someone else's approval. You learn to measure your success by your own progress, not by how many people notice it. So, why does this matter? Because building something meaningful takes time. It takes focus, and it takes the kind of dedication that doesn't need to be shared every step of the way. It's easy to get caught up in the external validation, posting about your goals, talking about your big plans, trying to get people to cheer you on. But real, lasting growth happens when you're willing to keep your head down, do the work, and let the results speak for themselves. This doesn't mean you never share your achievements. It doesn't mean you don't celebrate your wins. But it does mean you wait until you've earned it. When you let the work build on its own, when you've put in the effort without expecting immediate rewards, the success feels that much sweeter. The recognition means more because you know you didn't need it to push you forward. You did it because it mattered to you, not because you wanted the applause. This is what happens when you work in silence. You become who you truly are, without the distraction of seeking approval. You focus on becoming your best version, not the one that impresses others. This is how you build something that lasts, not on external validation, but on your own internal commitment to growth. Think about it. How many times have you shared your ideas only to have them fizzle out before you even made progress? How many projects have you started with excitement only to feel overwhelmed by the pressure of having to keep up with others' expectations? What if you could just remove that pressure? What if you could focus solely on the work and the process without worrying about what others think or how they're reacting? This is where real progress happens. The next time you have an idea, a goal, or a dream, resist the urge to announce it to the world. Instead, put in the work. Focus on making it real. Let it grow in the quiet. And when it's solid, when it's something that you've built with your own hands, then you can share it. Then you can stand tall and say, "I did this," not because you were looking for validation, but because you did the work. You didn't need the noise. You needed the silence. So, start building in private. Stop seeking external validation before you've even started. Focus on the work, not the applause, because when you do, the results will speak for themselves. And when the time comes to share your success, it won't be about showing off. It'll be about sharing something real, something earned. 10. Discomfort is the entry fee for growth. Growth isn't free. It's easy to imagine that one day you'll wake up with everything figured out, that the things you want, the changes you need to make, will simply fall into place without much effort. But the reality is, growth demands something from you. It demands discomfort. Whether you're starting a business, ending a toxic relationship, or finally deciding to face the things that have been weighing you down for years, growth comes at a price. It costs pain. It costs change. It costs the courage to step outside of your comfort zone and face the unknown. But here's the catch. There's pain in staying stuck too. You can avoid the pain of growth, but only by settling for the pain of staying exactly where you are. So the real question is, what kind of pain are you willing to endure? The pain of growth isn't the kind of pain that destroys you. It's the kind that reshapes you. It's the discomfort that comes when you push past what's easy, what's familiar, and what's comfortable. It's the feeling of uncertainty when you take that first step into something new. It's the resistance you feel when you're trying to build something better, when you're trying to become someone better. But here's the thing. If you don't face that discomfort, you'll face a different kind of pain. The pain of regret. The pain of looking back and wondering what might have been. The pain of knowing that you could have grown, but chose to stay where you were because it felt safer, easier, more comfortable. This is why the Stoics practiced discomfort on purpose. They didn't just tolerate discomfort, they sought it out. They understood something most people don't. That real strength, real growth, doesn't come from staying inside your comfort zone. It comes from pushing against the edges of it. It comes from willingly choosing the hard path, the one that demands more from you. And the Stoics were well aware that life itself would bring plenty of hardship. But if you've already trained yourself to deal with discomfort, if you've already practiced pushing through difficult moments, when life pushes back, you won't collapse. You'll rise. The idea that growth comes without pain is an illusion. We want to believe that we can change, that we can become better versions of ourselves without having to face the hard parts. But that's not how it works. The road to anything worthwhile is paved with discomfort. Whether it's learning a new skill, changing your mindset, or letting go of the things that no longer serve you, the process will hurt. And if you're unwilling to endure that pain, you'll find yourself stuck in the same patterns, wondering why nothing ever changes. Carl Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." This isn't just some philosophical idea. It's a fundamental truth about human nature. You can't evolve without stepping outside of your comfort zone. You can't reach new heights without climbing through the discomfort of the journey. Every time you step into something new, you're met with resistance. And it's in that resistance, in that friction, that you grow. The discomfort is a sign that something is changing. It's a signal that you're moving from one place to another, from where you are to where you could be. But growth isn't just about enduring pain. It's about choosing your pain wisely. The pain of staying the same, of remaining in situations that drain you, of continuing habits that keep you stuck. That's the kind of pain that leads to decay. It's the pain that comes from inaction, from fear, from choosing comfort over progress. But the pain of growth, the pain that comes from facing your fears, from confronting your weaknesses, from stepping into the unknown, that's the kind of pain that leads to evolution. It's the kind of pain that helps you evolve into a stronger, more capable version of yourself. Think about the moments in your life when you've grown the most. I bet those moments weren't easy. I bet they were uncomfortable, maybe even terrifying. Maybe you made decisions that scared you. Maybe you had to face things about yourself that you'd been avoiding, but in those moments, you learned something new. You became something more. And the pain you felt was worth it because it led you to a new place in your life, a new version of yourself. So here's the reality. You can't avoid pain. You can't avoid discomfort. But you can choose which pain you want to endure. You can choose the pain of growth, the pain of evolution, the pain of becoming better. Or you can choose the pain of staying stuck, the pain of regret, the pain of knowing you could have done more, but didn't. The choice is yours. The Stoics understood that the discomfort we feel today is what shapes us into who we will become tomorrow. Every time we choose to face that discomfort, every time we push through the resistance, we're building the muscle of resilience. We're strengthening our ability to deal with whatever life throws at us. Because the truth is, life doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It's going to keep throwing challenges your way. But if you've trained yourself to face discomfort head-on, to embrace the hard moments as opportunities for growth, you'll be able to handle whatever comes next. There's no shortcut to growth. You can't skip the hard work. You can't sidestep the challenges. But you can choose to approach them with the mindset that they are part of your evolution, part of your journey. The pain is inevitable, but how you respond to it is up to you. Will you run from it? Will you let it defeat you? Or will you embrace it, knowing that on the other side, you'll be stronger, wiser, and more capable? So choose your pain wisely, because one leads to growth and the other leads to stagnation. Embrace the discomfort. Don't run from it, because it's in the hardest moments that the best version of you is born. And when you look back, you'll realize that every ounce of pain was worth the person you became. 11. Tolerate no disrespect, especially from yourself. You've probably stood up for your friends, defended your siblings, walked away from toxic people who didn't treat you right. You've probably fought for the people you love, made sure they know their worth, and shielded them from harm. But here's the real question. Do you do that for yourself? How often do you stand up for you? How often do you defend your boundaries, your peace, your worth? It's easy to protect others, to fight for their respect, but what about your own? Every time you let someone belittle you, every time you stay in a situation that drains you, every time you lie to yourself or break your own promises, you're disrespecting yourself. And the most dangerous kind of disrespect is the one you allow from within. We all know the feeling. Someone crosses a line, and your instinct is to defend yourself, to stand tall, to let them know their behavior isn't acceptable. But what happens when you cross your own line? When you ignore your gut feeling, when you let others treat you badly, or when you stay in situations that diminish you? That's disrespect. It's a subtle kind of self-betrayal that can go unnoticed until it begins to erode your confidence and sense of worth. It's not the loud, obvious disrespect that comes from others. It's the quiet disrespect that comes from you, the permission you give yourself to tolerate less than you deserve. Think about it. How many times have you let people talk over you? How many times have you accepted excuses from others when you should have drawn a firm boundary? How many times have you lied to yourself, telling yourself things like, "It's not that bad," or "I can handle it," when deep down you knew it was eroding your peace? The most dangerous disrespect is the one that you allow to happen from within. When you don't stand up for yourself, when you let your boundaries be crossed, you're teaching the world that it's okay to treat you however they want. You're showing them that your peace is negotiable, but your peace should never be up for negotiation. Self-respect starts with self-awareness. It begins with recognizing your worth and acknowledging that you deserve the same level of respect you give to others. And this isn't about arrogance or entitlement. It's about knowing that you're worthy of kindness, honesty, and compassion, starting with how you treat yourself. It's about setting boundaries, not as a wall to keep people out, but as a foundation to keep your inner peace intact. You don't have to let people walk all over you to be kind. You don't have to sacrifice your happiness for the sake of others. Respecting yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. The Stoic philosophers understood this principle well. They taught that we should not only defend our peace from external forces, but also from our own negative self-talk and self-sabotage. Marcus Aurelius said, "Reject your sense of injury, and the injury itself disappears." It's not just about standing up to others. It's about not letting your own thoughts or actions be the cause of your harm. If you wouldn't let anyone else speak to you the way you speak to yourself, why would you tolerate it from your own mind? If someone else called you worthless or told you that you didn't deserve something, you'd shut it down. But when it's your own thoughts telling you that, it can be harder to fight back. Yet that's where the real battle is. Every time you make a compromise, every time you ignore a red flag, every time you choose comfort over self-respect, you're reinforcing a pattern. You're telling yourself that it's okay to settle, that it's okay to put your needs and your worth second. But self-respect doesn't work that way. It's not about being perfect. It's about being honest with yourself. It's about recognizing when you've allowed disrespect to creep in and making the decision to stop it right then and there. Every time you protect your boundaries, every time you refuse to let others belittle you, every time you choose your peace over external validation, you're reinforcing your self-respect. And with that respect comes the power to demand the same from the world. It's also about recognizing when you're not treating yourself right, when you stay in situations that drain you, when you put your needs last, when you deny your own worth. It's easy to justify those behaviors. We often tell ourselves that we're being selfless, that we're being understanding, that we're being kind. But when you allow others to treat you poorly, when you tolerate situations that don't align with your values, you're not being kind to yourself. You're letting the world shape you instead of shaping yourself. And that's where true change begins, when you start demanding the respect you deserve from yourself first. But how can you become who you truly are if you're constantly allowing others, or even yourself, to treat you as less than you are? You can't show up as your authentic self if you're not respecting your own needs, your own boundaries, and your own worth. Becoming the person you're meant to be requires an unshakable foundation of self-respect. It requires knowing who you are and refusing to settle for less than that. It requires standing firm in your boundaries and protecting your peace, even when it's uncomfortable. This doesn't mean you have to be hard or distant. It doesn't mean you shut people out or push away those who care about you. It means you stand in your truth. It means you show the world what you're made of, not through force or anger, but through the quiet strength of knowing your worth. When you respect yourself, the world will respect you too. And the key is to start with how you treat yourself. If you want others to respect you, start by respecting yourself first. Treat yourself with kindness, with honesty, with compassion. Set your boundaries, not out of fear or defensiveness, but out of love for yourself. This is where respect begins, right here, with you. Every time you catch yourself settling for less, stop. Reaffirm your worth. Speak to yourself with kindness. Honor your boundaries. And remember this: self-respect isn't something you earn from others. It's something you give to yourself. And when you give it to yourself, the world has no choice but to reflect it back to you. 12. Be patient. Good things take time. In today's world, everything is fast. We want results now. We want answers now. We want progress now. The internet, social media, instant gratification, it's all designed to make us feel like everything should happen in an instant. But here's the reality: growth doesn't rush. Whether you're building a business, getting fit, healing from a breakup, or learning a new skill, true progress takes time. The truth is, good things take time, and the key is patience. We often find ourselves frustrated when we don't see immediate results. We look for instant outcomes, and when they don't come, it's easy to think that nothing is happening. But growth, real growth, is often invisible in the beginning. The Stoics understood this better than most. They didn't expect everything to happen overnight, and they didn't rush the process. They knew that patience wasn't about sitting back and waiting passively. It was a powerful tool. Patience is active. It's about trusting the process, even when you can't see the results yet. Just like planting seeds in a garden, you don't dig them up the next day to check if they're growing. You trust that, with time, they will sprout. When you're working on something, whether it's your physical health, a side project, or emotional healing, it's easy to get discouraged when you don't see instant results. It feels like you're putting in the work and getting nowhere. The gym feels like an endless cycle of sweat with no visible change. Your side hustle looks like a lot of late nights and effort with little reward. Your healing process feels slow, like you're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But just because it's slow doesn't mean it's not working. The change is happening even when you can't see it yet. The effort you're putting in today is laying the foundation for the success you'll see tomorrow. The Stoics practiced patience because they knew it was necessary for growth. Marcus Aurelius said, "If you are pained by any external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it." We can't rush the process, but we can control how we react to the slowness. We can choose to see the slow progress as part of the journey, as part of our evolution. We can choose to trust that the work is happening even when we don't see it. The only thing that truly stops us from reaching our goals is the belief that we can't handle the process. The truth is, The process is the goal. If we keep showing up, if we keep watering those seeds, we will see the fruits of our labor. But we must stay in it. We must trust the journey, trust the process, and trust that the breakthrough is coming. When you plant a seed, you don't pull it up every day to check its progress. You water it, you nurture it, and you trust that in time, it will grow. The same goes for anything you're working on in your life. Your efforts today, no matter how small they seem, are making a difference. The gym isn't just about building muscle. It's about building the discipline to keep showing up, even when you don't see immediate results. The side hustle isn't just about making money. It's about learning the ropes, gaining experience, and figuring out what works. The healing isn't just about moving on from the past. It's about learning to trust yourself again, rebuilding your sense of self-worth, and becoming stronger in the process. And none of this happens in an instant. Here's the secret. Success doesn't happen when you reach the destination. It happens in the moments when you choose to keep going, even when you can't see the finish line. It happens when you decide that you're not going to give up just because things aren't moving as quickly as you'd like. And that's where patience comes in. Patience isn't passive. It's active. It's the decision to stay in the game, to keep showing up, even when progress feels slow. It's knowing that while you might not be able to see the change yet, the change is happening. You're building something that's going to last. You're creating something that will stand the test of time. But you have to trust the process. But to become who you truly are, you have to trust the journey. You have to be patient with yourself. You have to understand that every step, no matter how small, is part of your evolution. The person you're becoming isn't formed by one giant leap. It's formed by every little step, every effort you put in, every moment when you choose to stay in the process instead of rushing to the end. So, stay in it. Water your seeds, even when you don't see them sprouting. Keep doing the work, even when the results aren't visible. Trust that your efforts are not in vain. Trust that every moment you spend improving, even in small ways, is building the foundation for your future success. And when you start to feel frustrated or disheartened by the pace, remind yourself that growth doesn't rush. It's a slow, steady process, and the best things in life are worth waiting for. Patience isn't about sitting back and doing nothing. It's about trusting the process, staying consistent, and knowing that the small steps you take today are building the life you want tomorrow. Growth doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen when you rush it. But it does happen. And when it does, you'll realize that the process was worth every moment of waiting. So, be patient. Trust yourself. Keep showing up and know that good things are on their way. Your breakthrough is coming. You just have to keep going. 13. Don't chase validation. Build self-approval. We live in a world where validation is constantly at our fingertips. A like, a comment, a compliment. It all feels good, doesn't it? We thrive off the praise, the recognition, the applause. But here's the uncomfortable truth. All of that fades. The likes stop coming, compliments get quieter, and applause eventually dies out. It's not that those things don't feel good, but when you build your identity on them, you're setting yourself up for an endless chase. Because the truth is, if you rely on external validation to feel good about yourself, you'll always need more of it. And eventually, that well will run dry. The applause will quiet, and you'll find yourself searching for a new source of validation. But here's the power of self-approval. When you learn to validate yourself, to look in the mirror and say, "I'm proud of me," when no one else is watching, that's when you become truly unstoppable. Imagine living a life where you don't need to hear "good job" from others to feel accomplished. Imagine waking up every day knowing that your worth doesn't depend on someone else's approval. Imagine being able to stand tall in your own skin without waiting for the applause, the likes, or the praise. This isn't a fantasy. It's possible, but it starts with shifting your mindset. When you rely on external validation, you give away your power. You let someone else dictate your sense of worth, and that's a dangerous game. Every time you place your self-worth in someone else's hands, you become a performer, constantly looking for that next hit of validation. And when it doesn't come, you feel lost, unappreciated, invisible. But what if you could shift that? What if you could take back that power? The key is building self-approval. It's about saying, I'm proud of what I'm doing, regardless of whether anyone notices or applauds. And when you do that, something shifts inside you. You stop performing for others, and you start living for yourself. You begin to make decisions based on your values, not your need for approval. The Stoic philosophers understood this better than most. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." It's not about how others see you, it's about how you see yourself. Your worth comes from within, not from external sources. When you shift your focus from needing others to validate you, to validating yourself, you take control of your life. You start living on your own terms, and that's where true power lies. Think about the times when you felt like you weren't enough because you didn't receive the recognition you wanted. Maybe you worked hard on a project and didn't get the acknowledgement you were hoping for. Or maybe you poured your heart into something but no one noticed. It stings, doesn't it? But here's the reality. Those moments don't define you unless you let them. You don't need someone else to validate your efforts because you already know what you're capable of. When you can say, "I'm proud of me," without needing anyone else's applause, you free yourself from the constant need for external validation. You stop looking for the next compliment and start acknowledging your own progress. You stop performing and start living authentically. And that's a powerful shift. When you build self-approval, you create a foundation that doesn't crumble when external validation disappears. Your worth isn't contingent on someone else's opinion of you. Your worth is built on your own perception of yourself. If you're always seeking validation from the outside, you'll never get a clear picture of who you are. But when you stop chasing approval and start approving of yourself, you unlock the freedom to be who you truly are, without fear of judgment or rejection. This doesn't mean you should never appreciate compliments or the validation you get from others. It's human nature to want recognition, but when you rely on it too much, you lose sight of your own worth. You begin to perform for others, and your sense of self becomes dependent on how others see you. But if you can learn to validate yourself, if you can be proud of who you are without needing anyone else to confirm it, you become unshakable. Your life isn't a performance for an audience. It's a statement of who you are, what you stand for, and what you're capable of. The truth is, you don't need to perform for anyone. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone. You just need to show up for yourself. You need to be the first one to say, "I'm proud of what I'm doing. I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of where I'm headed." When you validate yourself, you stop seeking external approval. You stop chasing after likes, comments, and applause, and instead, you begin to live authentically. You stop performing and start living your truth. And that's where the magic happens. The shift from chasing validation to building self-approval changes everything. It frees you from the constant need for recognition. It empowers you to make decisions that align with your values, not the opinions of others. And once you start living with self-approval, you'll realize that the world responds to that energy. People will see your confidence, your authenticity, and your sense of self-worth, and they'll respect it. You won't need to chase their approval. They'll see you for who you truly are, and that's more powerful than any external validation could ever be. Your life is not a stage, it's a statement. Every action you take, Every decision you make is a declaration of who you are. Stop performing for the world. Start living for yourself. Because when you build self-approval, you stop seeking validation and you start living your truth. You become unstoppable. Your life becomes a reflection of your inner confidence, and that's the kind of life that others will respect. It's the kind of life that will inspire others to stop performing and start living too. So let your worth come from what you know about yourself, not what others think. That's when the real power starts. 14. Discipline is the real freedom. Most people think freedom means doing whatever they want, whenever they want. It sounds appealing, doesn't it? The idea of having no restrictions, no boundaries, just living life on your own terms, following every impulse as it comes. But here's the thing, that's not freedom, that's chaos. True freedom isn't about having the liberty to do anything you please. It's about having the self-control to choose what's good for you, even when it's hard. Real freedom is waking up early, even when your bed feels too comfortable to leave. It's saying no to distractions, even when they promise immediate gratification. It's eating right, staying consistent, and choosing growth over comfort. That's not restriction, it's power. The misconception that freedom equals doing whatever we want keeps so many of us trapped in a cycle of instant gratification. We're constantly looking for the next high, the next pleasure, the next distraction that will take our mind off the challenges we're facing. But this isn't true freedom. It's a fleeting moment of pleasure followed by an inevitable crash. Real freedom, the kind that lasts and shapes your life, comes from discipline. Discipline is the quiet strength that holds you accountable to your long-term goals. It's the ability to say no to temporary pleasures that take you off course and say yes to the actions that align with your values. It's choosing to do what's hard in the moment, knowing that it will lead to something better in the long run. When you live without discipline, you end up living reactively. Every distraction pulls you in 1,000 different directions. Every impulse, every urge becomes an excuse for avoiding the work that needs to be done. And this kind of life isn't freeing, it's exhausting. It's exhausting because you're constantly chasing after something, never truly satisfied, always looking for the next distraction, the next fix. But when you choose discipline, you choose to take control. You choose to live intentionally, to make decisions that align with your goals and values. And the more you practice self-discipline, the more freedom you actually gain. It's a paradox. The more you limit yourself in small ways, the more expansive your life becomes in the long run. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't see discipline as a burden. They saw it as armor. Self-discipline was their shield against the chaos of life, a tool that allowed them to stay grounded no matter what the world threw at them. When things got tough, when life became unpredictable, their discipline kept them standing. It wasn't just about following rules or restrictions, it was about choosing to act with purpose, to direct their energy towards what mattered most, even in the face of adversity. As Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Discipline, then, is the key to mastering yourself. It's the ability to take control of your mind, your body, and your actions, instead of letting them control you. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's not about living a life of rigid control where you never make mistakes or give in to temptation. It's about consistency. It's about showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it. It's about doing the things that are hard but necessary, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about pushing yourself beyond your limits, not for the sake of punishment, but for the sake of growth. In the same way that an athlete trains their body for strength, you train your mind for resilience. The more you discipline yourself, the more you become aware of your impulses and how they steer you. You learn to recognize the fleeting pleasures that pull you off track, and you gain the strength to say no to them. It's easy to think that discipline is something that limits your freedom, that restricts your life. But the truth is, it's the complete opposite. Discipline allows you to live your life on your own terms. It gives you the power to choose what's best for you, even when it's difficult. When you master yourself, when you gain control over your habits and your choices, you create a life that aligns with your deepest desires, not your temporary whims. You stop being a slave to distractions, to bad habits, to external expectations. You start to live with purpose, and in doing so, you gain true freedom. You need the strength to say no to the things that pull you away from your true self, the things that keep you stuck in patterns of behavior that don't serve you. It's discipline that allows you to break free from these patterns and step into the person you're meant to be. Without discipline, you're like a ship without a rudder, drifting wherever the wind blows. But with discipline, you chart your own course, and no external force can knock you off track. It's important to recognize that discipline is not just about following a set of rules. It's not about punishing yourself for every slip-up or mistake. It's about learning to make choices that honor your goals and your values. It's about doing the things that will get you closer to where you want to be, even when it's uncomfortable. And in the long run, it's the small, consistent actions that add up. It's waking up early every day to work on your side hustle, even when you're tired. It's choosing to eat nourishing food, even when unhealthy snacks tempt you. It's saying no to distractions that derail your focus, and yes to the things that move you forward. When you build this kind of discipline into your life, you stop living reactively. You stop letting life dictate your actions. Instead, you become the one in control. You become the one who decides where your energy goes. And when life hits, when things get tough, it's your discipline that will keep you standing. It's the habit of showing up, of doing the hard work, of choosing the path that leads to growth, even when it's uncomfortable. That's the power of discipline. So the next time you feel like giving up, the next time you're tempted to take the easy route, remember that real freedom comes from discipline. It's the power to choose what's best for you, even when it's hard. It's the ability to show up for yourself day after day and build the life you want. Discipline isn't a restriction, it's the armor that keeps you strong when life tries to knock you down. And once you embrace that power, you'll realize that true freedom is found not in doing whatever you want, but in doing what's best for you, consistently and with purpose. 15. You can start over right now. How many times have you caught yourself saying, "I'll start fresh tomorrow," or "next Monday I'll finally get on track"? We've all been there, waiting for the perfect moment to make a change, thinking that our opportunity for a fresh start has to be wrapped in the right circumstances or at a specific time. Maybe you've told yourself that New Year's Day is the time to turn things around, or perhaps you've waited until the weekend when life feels a little less chaotic. But here's the truth. You don't have to wait for any of that. You don't need January 1st. You don't need the perfect Monday or the ideal moment. The power to restart, to begin again, is available right now. It's not about waiting for permission. It's not about waiting for everything to be pretty or perfect. It's about deciding right here, right now, that you are going to begin. You don't need to wait until everything is in place. Just start. The problem is, so many of us get caught in the trap of thinking we need to have everything figured out before we take action. We tell ourselves we need more time, more information, more resources. But the reality is, if you keep waiting for everything to align perfectly, you'll be waiting forever. Waiting for the perfect moment to start something is often just a form of procrastination disguised as planning. And what's worse, it becomes an excuse to keep putting off what matters most. We trick ourselves into thinking that if we don't have all the pieces in place, we shouldn't even bother trying. But the Stoics taught us something different. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Marcus Aurelius understood that. He didn't obsess over waiting for the ideal moment to act. He understood that every moment is an opportunity to make a change. He wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If you're waiting for some future event to give you permission to take action, you're giving away your power. Every moment you spend waiting is a moment that could have been used to move closer to your goals. Instead of waiting for the world to line up, start with what you have right now. Whether it's a small step or a giant leap, the key is to take action. Every single breath you take is an opportunity to choose a new direction. You don't need a fresh calendar page to make a change. You don't need some big event to reset your life. The Stoics practiced the art of continuous self-improvement, knowing that every moment held the potential to start again. They didn't wait for things to be perfect before they took action. They simply acted, and in doing so, they were always moving forward. Each action, no matter how small, was progress. Whether they were making strides in their personal life or handling an external challenge, their focus was on what could be done now, not what could be done later. Think about the last time you felt stuck. Maybe you've been feeling lost, overwhelmed by where you are, unsure of how to move forward. The pressure to be perfect or to make the right decisions can paralyze you into inaction. But that's the trap. Perfection doesn't exist, and waiting for it will only hold you back. There's no perfect time to begin, and if you keep waiting for everything to align, you'll find yourself still in the same place a year from now, still waiting for permission. The truth is, one action, one small step, one moment of decision is all it takes to turn the page and move in a new direction. It doesn't matter how far off track you've fallen, how many mistakes you've made, or how many times you've tried and failed before. The past doesn't define your future unless you let it. Each day is a chance to reset, to choose a new path. It doesn't have to be a monumental change, it just has to be a start. Take one small step, no matter how insignificant it may seem. That step, that decision, is the moment you take control of your direction. From there, the momentum builds. The key is to not let yourself get paralyzed by perfection, by fear, or by waiting for some magical moment to start. You have everything you need to begin right now. Don't let excuses hold you back. Whether it's fitness, personal growth, starting a new project, or overcoming bad habits, the moment to begin is now. Start with what you have. You don't need the perfect plan, the ideal resources, or even all the answers. You just need the willingness to take that first step. The first step is always the hardest, but it's also the most important. Once you begin, you'll find that the path forward begins to reveal itself. The more steps you take, the clearer the road becomes. Every small action you take is a step toward becoming that person. It's not about waiting for everything to fall into place. It's about working with what you have right now to move closer to your goals. Starting now doesn't mean you have it all figured out. It doesn't mean you won't face setbacks or challenges along the way. What it does mean is that you're making the decision to take control, to stop waiting, and to stop making excuses. Every small action, every choice you make, brings you closer to where you want to be. The sooner you start, the sooner you can begin building the life you want. So stop waiting for January 1st. Stop waiting for Monday. Stop waiting for the perfect moment to start. You don't need to wait for anyone's approval or permission. The power to restart is available to you right now. The only thing standing in your way is the belief that you need everything to be perfect before you begin. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. You don't need to have it all figured out today, but you do need to start. Take one small step, one action, one choice. That's all it takes to begin the journey. The breakthrough is coming, but it all starts with your decision to take that first step right now. So go ahead, take it. Remember, the power to change your life starts with one simple decision. Don't wait for the perfect moment because it's already here, right in front of you. Take that first step, trust the process, and begin building the life you deserve. You have everything you need right now to start your journey. Don't let anything hold you back. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to keep growing with us. Check out one of the videos on the screen for more insights on Stoic philosophy and how it can transform your life. Thank you for being part of Stoic Journal. Keep showing up for yourself because you are the author of your own story.